שלי בעולם.
Grief and loss written on the faces of those whose loved ones were killed 1 year ago today in the Hamas attacks. This ceremony was held at the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel. 364 people were killed there. It was the single deadliest attack on that day. 40 others were taken hostage. Now there's a site covered with photographs and tributes to those lost on that day, memorials to those who have not been seen since. And for people whose loved ones are still being held hostage, it has been a year of anguish but determination. Moshe Lavi's brother-in-law, Omri Miran, was taken on that day. Moshe joins us today from New York. Moshe, thank you for making time for us. I know it's a very significant day.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha, for having me. It's really important that we'll keep sharing the stories of the hostages, especially on this day.
Talk to me about the last time you heard from or even got any information about your brother-in-law.
We haven't received any information since late April when Hamas released a psychological warfare video featuring Omri alongside Keith Siegel, Israeli-American hostage. We don't know anything ever since. He looked very weak, lost a lot of weight. The spark in his eyes was gone, but we were relieved to see he was alive back then. And it gave us motivation to keep advocating for him with elected officials, world leaders, with the media, communities, wherever we can.
As you said in that picture, to you, he looked very thin. We have opted at CBC News to not show the video. We did show an image of your brother-in-law, but I want to share a different image, perhaps the one that you all are holding on to. You've shared videos with us, thank you for that, of Omri with his two daughters. And I wonder if we show that this man, he's full of life. He's got these two beautiful girls that he's raising. What has this past year been like for you and for them, and especially for your sister who's lost a brother?
It's been such a tough year, and it's tougher to think that it's been a year and the crisis is still ongoing. For the girls, Ronnie and Alma, Ronnie's 3 years old, Alma is 1 year old. It's a different experience for them because Ronnie is more conscious of the fact her father is missing. She saw it in her eyes, she remembers it, she draws it, she talks about it, and she calls for her father every night. Alma is only 1 year old, and so she's making her first steps in this world, uttering her first words. But one of her first words is father, daddy. She points at his poster and says it. Today we posted on our Instagram page for Omri, Bring Omri Home, a footage of all the things he missed over the past year with his girls, with his daughters. And it's just heartbreaking to watch as they're growing so much and he's missing it. But my sister, she has a heart of iron, like Penelope from the Odyssey. She continues to advocate, to rally, to cry for the hostages, and to make sure every elected official in our country and in every country understand that they need to put aside their politicking, need to put aside other interests that override the redeeming of our captives, the hostages, put pressure on Hamas on one hand and their sponsors, Iran and Qatar and Turkey, and put pressure on our own government to deliver what they promised on the first week of the war, bringing home the hostages.
Have you heard recently from any elected official, anyone from the military about how big of a priority this is, what they're doing to get your brother-in-law back?
We engage on a regular basis with representatives of the government, whether elected officials, public servants, or of course, members of the security apparatus. They keep stating that it is still a priority, that this is still a primary objective, but it's clear that negotiations are at standstill. I got that confirmation 2 weeks ago when I met with several representatives of relevant governments here in New York during the UNGA 79, that negotiations are not successful at the moment. We understand from the mediators that there are two problems. The main obstacle is Yahya Sinwar. Irrespective of what Hamas leaders abroad, outside Gaza says, Sinwar is not willing to sign on a deal, any deal that is on the table, and especially a deal that will bring an end to the suffering, bring home the hostages, and send him to exile so that Gazans will have a better leadership that they deserve as well, and rebuild their territory, and hopefully is part of a future Palestinian state. But there's another obstacle, and that is our own government. And it needs to do more. It needs to commit to a deal, to say yes to a deal, even if Hamas and Sinwar says no. Even if Iran does not push Sinwar to say yes, our government needs to say yes to a deal and prioritize the redemption of the captives over other interests. We can achieve so much in the long term, other objectives, but the only objective that can be achieved in the short term is redeeming the captives. They have no more time left. So many are losing their life because they are not being rescued. They're not being rescued by the world, by the apathetic world. They're not being let go by Hamas, a terrorist organization, and our government is not doing enough to bring them home.
Do you believe the Israeli government when they say this is still a top priority? I ask that not to sound insensitive, Moshe. Let me say this. I ask that because now, as Netanyahu himself has said, Israel is battling on multiple fronts, including now this escalating possibility of an all-out war with Iran. How far back do the hostages fall on the priority list then?
I think you pointed out well that they fell back in the priority list, and we're feeling it in our engagement with elected officials. And the same is happening here in the US. The US leaders are focusing on their own election. They're focusing on their own problems. Perhaps they should, but there are still 7 American hostages held captive. And world leaders are not doing enough either. So, yeah, I agree. Our government is not putting it as a priority. They're promising us many things. But at the end of the day, they have failed to uphold their commitment to bring them home. They failed on October 7th. They failed with their policies before October 7th, allowing Hamas to go to the threat it was, making me grow up under rocket attacks for my entire life in Sderot, where my hometown. And since October 7, it seems like at times other things override the redemption of the hostages. Some of them are legitimate security concerns, and I understand that. We live in a world where you have to confront threats such as Hamas, such as Hezbollah, such as Iran. But I also sense there are illegitimate considerations, political, personal, that are part of Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision-making process. But at the end of the day, the Biden administration stated it yesterday, stated it countless times. The main obstacle, in their opinion, is Yahya Sinwar. And until we force Iran, push them to understand that it's in their interest to end this war in Gaza, the war that they funded alongside Qatar and Turkey, the war they push for through Hamas, their proxy, we won't see a resolution to this. But we're taking care on pressuring our government. The Israeli public is going on the streets, and we'll keep going on the streets. We'll keep engaging with our elected officials. But we need others to do the same abroad.
Very quickly, Moshe, just describe for me the toll this has taken, because I've seen you speak so many times. You and I have spoken before. You've been a wonderful advocate for your family and for this cause, but I cannot imagine the toll this past year has taken.
It's been a difficult year to balance and manage everything, but I don't matter. Whatever toll it has on me doesn't matter. Those who are suffering are the hostages. People like Omri, who is a shiatsu therapist and a gardener, a lover of nature, of sports, of literature, an amazing father, incredible husband to my sister Lishai. What matters is that we'll keep sharing their story, humanize them, irrespective of the toll it takes on us emotionally and physically. I'll keep advocating wherever I can. Yesterday in the rally at Central Park, we had thousands of allies and supporters coming with us. We'll rally today as well. I ran a marathon yesterday for the hostages. I'll keep running for them. I'll keep advocating for them, pushing world leaders to do what they need, and pushing my own elected officials to uphold the most holy of duties, sanctifying life and redeeming the hostages from Hamas' brutal captivity.
Moshe, thank you for your time. I hope Omri comes home to you, all of you, very soon. Thank you.